Welcome to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Corinne Basabe. We are delighted to have a very special artist with us today. This is part 2 of an interview of Nick Savides. Welcome back to Corinne's Picks.
Thanks for having me back, Corinne.
You know, when we were last here, we went through a couple of your images and really delved deeply into some of your thoughts about, painting and why you paint and how you paint. Would you mind, just for the viewers who didn't see part 1, would you mind just saying that a little bit of that again?
Sure. I'm inspired by the world around me, the people I see, and the places I go to, and very much inspired by taking walks in the city, finding things that interest me, that I think are visually interesting, that might make an interesting painting. So things like interesting colors or light and shade. And I really try to take what I see and make a composition, sort of reform that into the structure of a painting.
And you know, when I first saw your work, I think I described it as fuller realism, but I think you corrected me. How would you describe your work?
I usually, if someone asks me to describe my paintings, I usually just say they're realistic, and just let it go at that. Although I use photography as a tool, it's not my goal to make it look like a photograph. So that's the distinction.
Okay, so I know last time we barely got through all the images, so I actually really want to start discussing the images. So let's look at the first image, and maybe you could give us a little bit of a description of what's going on in each image.
Yeah, so these are some preparatory work, kind of showing the process of a painting that we'll see in a minute called East Village Nocturne. But on the upper left, you can see the scene. It's on St. Mark's Place in the East Village. But I was really interested in like the light and how it was lit up in red by these floodlights, and how the bar had the doors open so you could see inside. And so I came back as part of my process, came back at different times. You could see the exterior during the day, a detail on the left of this relief, ceramic relief. And then looking at some of the interior scenes, which kind of translate into the painting, but were needed to kind of capture what was going on in the interior.
So that's really interesting. You know, the shame is that paintings like yours really do need to be seen in person to really see the vibrancy and richness of the colors. Yeah. But can we have the next slide, please?
So the next stage is I'm kind of thinking about all of these images and the experiences I had, and kind of putting them together into like what would be a cohesive composition. That's on the top, and then and that's still digital. Now on the bottom is a thumbnail painting, which in reality it's about 5 inches across probably. It's very small. And the purpose of that is to work out the colors in paint, in oil paint, and kind of see what it would look like, and just really blocked out colors, not thinking about details, but just basic shapes, so that I could, on such a small scale, you could see what it would look like from like 20 feet away, because you want the painting to be able to be appreciated from far away and close up. And once I start working, I'm like 1 or 2 feet away from the canvas. I'm not really looking back.
But you know, I have questions about the colors, because if you're doing it digitally to try to work out some problems or ideas, how are you translating that with the actual paint that you've purchased? Like, because there's quite a stark difference between the image on the
That's
top
true.
and bottom. How are you getting the exact pitch or tone that you're getting from the computer to translate that onto canvas?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can modify that the hue in on the computer, but like the next step when it's actually in paint, I can and do divert from the
But how do
digital.
oh, so it's not the exact color?
No, it's not.
Oh,
It's not.
okay.
Yeah. The digital is just an approximation, just like
Okay.
a starting. Like all the digital things are kind of starting points.
But are you working with pigments and blending your own colors, powdered pigments, or are you basically just from the tube
Yeah,
mixing
just-
white and light, making it lighter and lighter?
Right. Yeah, just store-bought paint. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. Okay, can we have
Yeah.
the next image?
Yeah. So this is the final painting. So you can see that the colors are like kind of red or kind of pink, and then kind of orange, and then there's these highlights in blue from the interior scene, but also in the subway sign in the center. And so you have this mix of things going on in the exterior and on the interior, and like some of the people on the outside that are at the tables, they almost are invisible or camouflaged by what's going on in the background. And then you have this bicycle that's kind of falling down on the pole there. With this mural with the skull in the center. So each group in the outside, and each window is like a little vignette. Like there's something going on in each one. They're independent, but they kind of come together.
That's really wonderful, because actually when you talked about the windows, then I could see it. Actually wasn't really, my eyes actually didn't go there at first. So how are you doing the paint? Is it build up of thin layers, or basically you got to have the color you want and just painting directly onto it?
It's a little bit layered, but and we'll see in a video. I can show you some of the process.
Okay.
And even the windows above have like stories to tell. You have like from the left to the right, like a cat like looking out out window,
Right,
and then you have the
right.
closed windows that you can tell there's something going on because there's light creeping out from the sides.
And what is the size of this painting?
This is 4 feet across,
Wow.
4 feet
Wow.
and 2 feet.
Wow. Okay, can we see the video of this painting being made?
So this is a time lapse, starting from a blank canvas, laying out the composition in charcoal, and then a thin wash of oil paint. So that's the first layer. And then you could see that each day I'm going like section by section and filling in the details by section, because I like to work like while the paint is wet. So so I'm working in close proximity, maybe 6 inches or so, and working out like usually it's like areas of dark and light, kind of showing those extremes, and then the colors, and then the final stage is working out the figures, and then the details. Like the last part is like the signage, like the lettering on the signs, and then the final part is like just like making sure the composition hangs together, adjusting things that need to be adjusted, and then that's the final painting.
So
it's
what
a
was your
progression.
main field of study in art, was it just general art, but was there a subsection that allowed you to do this kind of art?
Well, it was, I studied fine arts, focusing on painting, and I also studied art history as part of that.
But what kind of, so this is a choice within your studies of painting, but what specific courses would you have taken to be able to paint like this, or was it just your own years and years of mastery?
It was really years of practice. Of course, starting with I mean, it's important to have the foundation, but I mean, it's really just years of practice.
Okay, I think we have time for one more image before we go to a commercial break.
Okay. All right. Oh, this is my studio with the painting I'm currently working on. It's in progress. But I mean, I guess it's fairly small. I like to work in where I live and vice versa. So what you don't see are stacks of paintings, but you know, brushes, palette, works table. I usually like to sit well on painting, so it kind of steadies my work.
You have a great deal of light in that studio. I'm jealous of the amount of light you get coming in that studio.
Yeah, I wanted to have the studio right next to a window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be back with Nick Savides, and we'll talk some more about his art. We're going to a commercial.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Corinne Basabe. We've been talking to Nick Savides, a renowned, amazing artist, and we've been really deeply examining some of his works and some of the thoughts and ideas behind these images. So let's go to the next image, Nick.
Great. Yeah, this is called On Waverly Place. I was really struck by the light in this scene between the awnings and the curtains and the shadows from the tree. I don't know, I was just intrigued by this in the West Village, with some hints of nature, with the tree in the center, and kind of like this mannequin sitting on a beach chair, smoking a cigarette, and this rabbit on the other side just struck me as kind of, I don't know, a little absurd.
Was she actually sitting in a, was the person actually sitting in a chair in a window?
The mannequin, yeah.
It's a mannequin,
Yeah.
okay.
But I don't know, that just struck me. And as I was painting the door, you could see there's a figure kind of exiting outside. And so that that figure kind of came to me as I was painting. But that's mostly what this painting is about, this kind of light and shade.
No, I love the contrast. I love the way you have the shade of the trees on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
I should say shadows
yeah,
of the trees.
yeah. This one is called Red Door. It's actually very small. It's like 12 inches high. And I wanted to do something very simple. I was struck by this standalone townhouse on West 27th Street, and how this door is lit up, and the sidewalk around it, excuse me, is lit up, and you know, you have these hints of traffic sign on the left, which you might be able to see on a different screen. And then these hints of construction from the trucks on the right, hints of a sky in the back, and hints of the High Line, which is the tree on the right. So a lot going on in like a very simple composition.
I always love the fact that in your paintings you really have to look at the foreground as well as what's immediate, the first image in front. So I mean, there's always a lot going on in your images.
Yeah, even for like the street, there's like all this like stuff you would see. It's not just like a flat street, but there's a manhole and the signs for the gas lines and things like that going on.
What would you say is one of your main challenges as a painter?
I think that the challenge is, it's always challenging finding like an interesting image or an interesting subject that sort of matches your psyche at the time, you know. And I don't know, I guess it's always, I mean, I always like to be challenged though. In the composition and execution.
Okay, so let's look at another image.
Sure. Yeah, East Village hats. I think the first thing that struck me were these mannequin heads wearing these hats in the window. And how you could see them through the window, but then you see the reflections above them, and then hats like that you can partially see. So it's like this combination of seeing through and reflections, and like how the storefront is basically pretty much like very dark, not very colorful, but then like a lot of the color is from the reflections from behind. And then you could see it's like a summer day because the sky is blue in the reflections.
I've seen that in a number of your paintings where you use store windows and reflections to kind of show what's across the street, billboards and things like that across the street.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting way to like break up the space and the planes, and so you could see, you're not just looking at a thing, you're looking at many things at once.
And how has your paintings changed over the years? I know, like, as myself as a painter, there's different series of work and they're drastically different, but how has your paintings varied?
I think if you go back like 30 years or so, I think they've gotten more complex, excuse me, more complex, more detailed. and I think I try to make them more visually interesting.
Okay. Okay, can we see the next image?
So this is Stromboli Pizza in the East Village. And I think the first thing that caught my eye were these the stools, the red and orange stools. And because there was multiple lights on them. Sorry. Because there's multiple lights on them, you have these shadows in different directions. And the other thing that I thought that was interesting was how they interacted with the red in the wall behind them.
So, do you have a preference for urban environments?
Yeah, I've painted both urban and rural and coastal scenes, and really over the past, all that time I've painted New York scenes, but I think I have a preference for urban. I think it's more interesting for me to paint, more things going on. I mentioned the reflections and shadows and things that are kind of unique to an urban environment. And on this one, how the figure is kind of walking toward the space, sort of like bringing you in.
Right.
Right.
So, where are you from? Are you originally from New York City?
I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, so are you from
Yeah.
an urban environment in New Jersey?
Actually suburban,
Okay.
but I've been living in the city since the early 80s.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at the next image.
Yeah, this is Paris. This is from 2010, so it's a while ago. But you could see even then working with these concepts of interior and exterior scenes. It's called Inside the Louvre, Looking Out. And you can see, there's a map of Egypt on the left, so you can see that it's like Egyptian themed, and there's this architectural theme, a model of a tomb in the center, and then looking out, you can see this building, and then even with the reflection, it's like this other shape, if you include the reflection. And you have these women looking out onto the scene, and you sort of don't, it's kind of a mystery because you don't really know what they're looking at.
And I look at the reflection on the case and the fine green lines that are the edges. It's just remarkable, the level of skill that you have.
Thanks. I wanted to kind of bring that out. Also including fingerprints.
Exactly.
It's like a little bit of humor in that thing.
Exactly. Okay, so I think we have about 4 or 5 more, so let's see some more images.
Yeah, this is Central Park. I wanted to, this is one of several paintings I've done in Central Park, kind of these grand scenes. This is about 4.5 feet wide. On an autumn day, you can see from the colors of the trees, but it's a little unusual because the light is coming from, like, directly at you. It's usually on the side and in back. But I wanted to see what it would look like if a lot of the city was in shadows, and then the trees are kind of bursting out with color. So it's a little bit surreal, the colors. But then in the park, you have people enjoying the day, like couples, families boating. So it's like this. It's kind of like a peaceful scene in the city.
Okay, the next image, please.
Yeah, this is, I just call this Ralph's. This is an ice cream store in the East Village. And I wanted to kind of it's very dominated by diagonals, and again you could see this concept of interior and exterior scenes. But with the figure, kind of the ice cream server, kind of because there's no one around, just kind of idly scrolling through her phone. But I wanted to see show these contrasts of blacks and whites and oranges and blues here.
It's a beautiful color palette. Can we
Thanks.
see the next image?
Yeah, I call this Love on Orchard. It's Orchard Street in the Lower East Side. And I thought I was curious what it would look like if like the colors were mostly concentrated in one section with the love mural. And then the rest of it, like very detailed architectural scene with some hints of sky reflected. And you could see like the sky in the way upper right, like so there's just one little triangle of the sky.
Right.
But sort of bring that down to the window and the mural, so this blue kind of tying it together. So it's very like rectangular, but kind of accentuated by this diagonal shadow cast by the sign.
Okay, the next image.
Yeah, this is, I call this Maine Coast on the Edge. This is Acadia National Park in Maine. And I was struck by this kind of diagonal composition. And like you have these very detailed rocks that are kind of weather worn in the foreground, leading us to these jagged edged rocks, leading us toward the shore. A figure kind of looking out. And I left off at the horizon. So you kind of don't know if you're looking at the edge of a mountain and with the sky, or the ocean. So kind of left that kind of a little bit ambiguous.
Okay, so thank you so much for being on Corinne's Picks. So we've come to the end of our
Oh,
images and the end of the show.
thanks for having me back.
Thank you, Nick. Until next time.
Thank you.
I'ma show you how to party.